don't get sued. It is rare that we hear of a lawsuit involving an Airbnb that wasn't likely preventable.
So today we are going to go over an Amazon checklist that is the top 10 things we buy for our short-term rentals that are insanely practical and affordable. This is not a scare tactic. It is your host checklist to keep your guest and your property safe.
And stick around for number 10 because we guarantee you haven't thought about it.
Hi, I'm Sarah Karakayan.
And I'm Annette Grant.
And together we are
Thanks for visiting. We've been hosting for well over a decade, welcomed tens of thousands of guests, and earned thousands of 5-star reviews.
Our portfolio continues to bring in over 1.5 million year over year, and supported not only by the industry's leading brands, but also some of the biggest media outlets.
And we're here to help you with your furnished rental.
Number 1, rug corner grippers. Slip, strips, and falls are the number 1 incident that occurs in a short-term rental. And the good news is these are easy to install, they're inexpensive, and you can do it yourself.
Yeah, and you can't even tell that they're there.
Right, it does not, like the guests will not even know that they're there. If they know they're there, then that is a problem. But again, get these today, install them, it's a breeze.
Number 2, a first aid kit. Now this might be, you're like, yes, ladies, we have a first aid kit. Great, that's amazing. Make sure it has a variety of components in there, from Band-Aids to, we like to have antiseptic in there. And this is a thing that a lot of hosts forget to do, is to check it between guest stays to make sure it's refilled and ready for that next guest who's gonna come stay with you.
And I know what you're thinking. You're gonna trust me, there's like the little chintzy one that you can get that's gonna be really inexpensive, but upgrade to the bigger one. Like Sarah said, you want to make sure that if something happens at home, they can take care of themselves. Number 3, emergency lock keys. Everyone knows those teeny tiny hairpin keys that always come in handy when someone accidentally pushes the knob in and locks it. And this will save you emergency panic calls from your guests where their little kid shut the door, locked the door, and they're trapped in there. And this way, you're helping yourself too, because people aren't trying to break in the doors to help who's ever behind them. So these, again, so inexpensive. You can get a batch of them on Amazon, store them for the guests, make sure you know where they are, make sure they know where they are. Just like Sarah said, too, with the first aid kit, this is one of those things, too. When each guest checks out, you want to make sure that they're available for the next guest.
We have, we've talked about it before, an inspection checklist that happens before our next guest checks in. And it's not just to make sure the cleaner did a good job. It really is, we'll probably say it a few times in this video because it's so important, to make sure that these safety elements are good to go for that next guest. Because it's only as good as your next reservation, making sure everyone is equipped. And it was not that long ago where I realized you could buy these emergency keys on Amazon. So don't just put one in your home. Get because they are easily lost.
They're tiny.
They're small.
They're
so I would have a little handful. We have a little light bulb and battery kit that we keep in a cabinet in the kitchen. I also throw these things in there as well. It's might as well have more than you need.
And one of the things that we want to think about, it's people do not know your home.
Right.
A lot of times there might be people that don't normally travel together, traveling together. So if something were to happen in a bedroom, in a bathroom, you want to make sure that you can get in and help them.
Number 4, flashlights and extra batteries. Power outages happen. Make sure that you have battery-operated flashlights, and not just in one place in your home. You can be an overachiever and have them in multiple places in your home. Under kitchen sinks, under the bathroom sink. You could have it bedside next to your bed, like if you have drawers in your nightstands. Equipping your guest with a way to navigate the home during a power outage is great. And then, of course, backup batteries, not only for those flashlights, but other things in your home is always the way to go.
Number 5, nightlights. Just like we said at the beginning, slip, trips, and falls are one of the most common occurrences in short-term rentals. And again, why? The guest doesn't understand or know the home. So the reason you want these night lights, people are going to be getting up to go to the restroom at night, maybe getting up to go get a drink of water, maybe checking on their children if they are in a new home. So you want to have night lights around the house for safety for your guest.
And the reason why I like this nightlight is because it has a sensor where it'll automatically, a lot of them do, but they'll automatically come on and the guest can't unplug it and put it to the side. Because even if it, let's say they don't want it on or they unplug it to plug something else in, they forget to plug it back in, then your whole safety measure plan went out the window. These are nice. They direct down towards the floor and you still leave the outlet area free for the guest to use, so you're less likely to get them to unplug them. Well, you can't, but that way they're there for the guest when they need them at nighttime.
We've just stayed at a place too, if you're getting really ahead of the game, they had the night lights like installed in the stairwell ahead of time. That was like, ooh, that was next level.
So good. Number 6, a meat thermometer. Stay with me here. Guests obviously come to short-term rentals. A big reason is because we have kitchens, and hotels, a lot of them don't have kitchens or good kitchens that are really well stocked, but your short-term rental does. But here's what the guest doesn't know is how your oven behaves. What if it runs hotter than their oven or less hot than their oven? I don't know. I'm not a cook. All I know is that one of our mentors, who is an international safety expert, has always coached us to have a meat thermometer in the property so that the guests can equip themselves to make sure that the meat they're preparing in our properties is fully cooked to whatever temperature it's supposed to be cooked to, so that they don't get sick while cooking in our spaces.
And the whole group. That's where I kind of, at first I thought this was ridiculous, and then when I started thinking about it more, it's like, yes, if people are cooking for a larger group, maybe they're not used to cooking for that larger group. Again, like Sarah said, they're maybe cooking in the oven, maybe they're taking things outside to your grill, which they've never grilled on before.
Right.
So again, super inexpensive, but will save your guests, hopefully, any sort of foodborne illness there. Number 7, a knife sharpener.
Yeah,
Again,
make your knives sharper.
Right. You
At first I was like, what?
You think it would be the other thing, like, no, I don't want them to be sharp. No, you absolutely want them to be sharp. Again, people cooking in your kitchen, not familiar with your space, and dull knives are more dangerous than sharp knives. They're not going to cut through things, then they slip, they fall off of whatever you're trying to cut, and then, there's something else there to catch the knife. So simple knife sharpener. And here's the deal. You should be the ones sharpening the knives, however, having it there for your guest just in case.
Number 8, smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. This one is non-negotiable. Honestly, this whole list is non-negotiable, but this really is non-negotiable. And you want to make sure you get a quality brand like First Alert. Having the combo is also totally fine, although if you really want to be an overachiever, have separate smoke detector and carbon monoxide detector. And make sure that you are not only changing the batteries before the manufacturer suggests you should. We already covered having extra batteries in your property, but you also want to make sure that you're cleaning these detectors often. Just take your duster and make sure that you're cleaning them off so that the sensors aren't getting caked on with dust and don't perform as well as they should.
And this should be part of your checklist too, your inspection checklist.
Yes.
Because if a guest is staying, again, not knowing your kitchen, they set off the smoke alarms, they take out the battery, toss it away, and just put it back up. So you want to make sure that you are checking these all the time. And then one other TFE pro tip for you, we have met so many hosts that have purchased a short-term rental that was flipped, and either they did not reinstall the smoke detectors, and or there were rooms that maybe it used to be a large closet, they flipped it into a bedroom, basement where they changed them into bedrooms, garages. A, you want to make sure that those are okay in your area, but B, make sure that they have a smoke detector in them also. Number 9, fire extinguishers. And yes, that was plural, okay? Because I want you to not only have one in the kitchen, but if you have a grill, I want you to have one outside, a grill, fire pit, things like that. I want you to have another one outside. And here's the deal. I know what you're thinking. Annette, those are ugly, they're bright, they're red, they don't belong in residential properties. Well, you are absolutely 100% incorrect, wrong, okay? You need to not have these hidden underneath your sink to where the guests can't see them because you think they're ugly. They need to actually be adhered to the wall in your kitchen. And there are specifics there because you don't want to have it right next to your stove because they need to be able to grab it off the wall and have distance to put out the fire. And good news for you, and we've linked to it, there are fire extinguishers that are white. Maybe they can blend in with your walls a little bit more if design is what you're focusing on here, which it cannot be design. It has to be safety. Please, if you go to any commercial property from a hotel, a restaurant, you are going to see the fire extinguishers, the smoke detectors. Their safety is out in the open for everybody to see, and you need to make yours that way too.
Make sure when you're purchasing the fire extinguisher that it is rated for the space in which you're selecting it for. Not all fire extinguishers are built to combat the different situations that can happen. So just read the label, and then it also set yourself up for success on that same checklist after the guest checks out and before the next guest checks in. Make sure it wasn't used. So there'll be a little gauge on there that tells you that it's ready for use. We have a checklist on our inspector's checklist to make sure that it is ready to deploy for the next guest should they need it.
And here's the deal. I used to buy, again, because I was like, oh, I don't like the way they look. And I used to buy the smaller ones. I actually did a fire extinguisher test out in the woods. I had multiple different fire extinguishers, like Sarah said, with our international short-term rental safety expert, Justin Ford. And I tested various different sizes, from the little teeny tiny ones you can get at like Walmart or Target that are almost like a can of hairspray, all the way up to the ones that we are recommending. And I'm telling you, if there is any sort of flame in your house, you do not want the small one. You want the one that is going to do its job and extinguish the fire. Again, let the guest help you if there is some sort of incident in your home.
Number 10, and I'm pretty sure you haven't thought of this, is a 2-story fire escape ladder. Yes. A lot of our homes, I mean, probably all of them, don't have fire suppression systems where water is going to come out on that second story of your home. And so guests need an efficient way to leave the property, so make sure you're not blocking windows to the outside. And if it is a second story, how are they going to get out? Jump and hurt themselves? They might opt to not jump, which is not a good choice to make. So having a ladder easily accessible for them to use and leave the property is recommended. And there are a lot of ways to store them. You want to make sure that you're storing them in a place where guests can find them and get them easily. Remember, they're going to be, God forbid this happens, they're going to be panicked. They're going to be not thinking clearly. So you don't want to have it like in a box tucked at the top of the shelf somewhere. But what I did is I got a really pretty basket, like a woven basket, and I put it inside of that basket next to the window. Obviously, you can see when you look into it, but I know that my guests are going to appreciate that I'm thinking about their safety and their lives by seeing it so close to the window.
And it goes back to everything that we've been talking about, from the fire extinguishers to the knife sharpener to the emergency keys. These are things, you can't have them like hidden in a top shelf somewhere where no one can see it. You want to make sure that from you to your turnover team, to your inspector, to the guest, everyone knows where they are, where they're located, they stay in the same spot, and that if they need to be replenished also. But I'm telling you, these are such small investments for the ultimate safety of your guests. Of course, this is a tip of the iceberg. We all have different properties. We're all in different areas of the world. So if you have a safety tip that we didn't mention it, please be a great community member. Help other hosts out. Drop it below in the comments.
If you loved today's video, we put out new content twice a week. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get all of our videos that come out. And then if you want to keep the education going, we've got this great video where you can steal our scripts, steal the messages that we send our guests to make sure you're setting yourself up for success. My name is Sarah Karakayan.
I'm Annette Grant, and together we are
Thanks for visiting.